So it's been a little while, but I've got a book haul for you. Hi everyone, I'm back today with a book haul, and I have a few books to talk about, and I'm going to try and get through them ASAP because I am prone to waffling and I don't want to have to edit this for about 6 hours. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 books to talk about today, 8 new books. My cat is currently making a nest in them, aren't you? Are you trying to make a nest in the books? So the first book that I'm going to mention is one that I've already read, and it is this one. This is The Hour of the Witch, and I have, as I say, already read this, so I'm not going to go into my thoughts on it because I'll talk about that in a review video. This was very kindly sent to me by my friend. This follows the story of Mary, who is in New England in the 1600s, and obviously at that time it was a huge time for witch trials and witchcraft accusations and things. This sort of suspicious time period is not the best for Mary, because Mary is the second wife of Thomas Deerfield, who is a bit of a brute, and he is prone to drunken rages, domestic violence, and at one point he rams a fork right through Mary's hand. He is absolutely horrific. Mary soon finds herself being in the middle of gossip, and people start to say things about Mary and start to imply that perhaps Mary has been possessed by the devil herself. This type of book is the sort of thing that really interests me. I love historical fiction, and it's a time period that I'm really interested in, as anybody who watches this channel a lot will know. The next book I'm going to talk about is this one. This is Strong Stuff by A.F. Stone. Now, I read and reviewed A.F. Stone's book, The Raven Wheel, and I absolutely loved it. What I really love about A.F. Stone's writing is that she really does go there. She can deliver you the most gritty storyline, but make it believable, relatable, and give you quite a harsh emotional impact. And so I'm really looking forward to reading Strong Stuff as well. And so this sounds like it will be another difficult read, but a read that I'm going to enjoy sinking into. So this story follows, what's the girl's name? Ruby. This story follows Ruby, who's a young carer. However, disaster strikes when her mum dies, and she has to go live with her father on sort of the wrong side of the tracks. And that's when she starts to really live her teenage life, and she makes friendships, relationships, and she's got a life going for herself there. However, forces conspire to take it all away from her, and she has to fight for what matters to her at any cost. I'm really looking forward to reading this. As I said, I really loved A.F. Stone's The Raven Wheel, so I'm very excited to read this and just see what happens to Ruby, and I'm hoping that it has the same sort of emotional impact that The Raven Wheel did on me. Oh, I also forgot to say that this one was sent to me for review as well. The next one that I've got is another really pretty book that I have bought to go with my Barnes & Noble leatherbound collection, which spans up there, and the one that I've bought this time is this one, Grimm's Fairy Tales. Now again, it's just another beautiful hardback that I am so happy has come home to live with me. So as I'm sure everybody knows, the Grimm's brother wrote fairy tales, and this is just a collection of the Grimm's Fairy Tales. I absolutely love the book design, and I'm really into my Barnes & Noble books, as you probably can tell. The next book that I've got is another one that was very kindly sent to me, and this is by Nina Jones, and this is called Breathe Free. Now this really interests me because as far as I'm aware, this is about sort of a migrant's journey, and I'm really excited to read this because I don't think I've read anything that covers that sort of storyline before, and I'm always looking to read something that introduces me to different topics, so I was very excited to be sent this one for review. And so this says, Emma has no idea where Anya is. She might have died in a fire, she might be alive, abroad, anywhere, alone, in danger. She has to find her, but how? Emma's only 14, just a normal girl, nothing special, except she won't give up. She'll run away from home, cross continents, risk her life again and again to find her best friend. And will it be worth it? As I say, this sounds like a really interesting storyline. I'm really looking forward to find out what happens with Emma and Anya and going along their journey with them. The next book that I've got is sort of a local interest book, so it's this one, The Unreliable Death of Lady Grange. Now, as many of you might know, I've lived in Scotland for many years. In the last few months, I've moved up to one of the Scottish islands, so I'm always here for Scottish books. I'm covering Scottish folklore and Scottish stories, and this book is the story of Lady Grange. And this story is based on a true story of one of the Scottish islands up in the Hebrides, where I am, and it's set on the island of St Kilda, which, if I'm not mistaken, I don't think is inhabited anymore, but you can do boat trips there. So this says, based on the extraordinary true story, we're thrown into Edinburgh in January 1732, and you know, I do love historical fiction. And it says, it's the funeral of Rachel, wife of Lord Grange. Her death is a shock. Still young, she'd shown no signs of ill health. Rachel is, however, still alive. She's been brutally kidnapped by a man who falsified her death, her husband. Punishment perhaps for railing against his infidelity, or simply for being too feisty for a lady and never submissive enough to be a wife. Now this has some of the feels of this one, doesn't it? Whether to conceal his Jacobite leanings or to replace his wife with a long-time mistress, Lord Grange banishes Rachel to a remote island exile, to an isolated life of hardship on St Kilda, where she can never be found. This is a gripping story of a woman who has until now been remembered mostly by her husband's unflattering account. It's a remarkable tale of how the real Lady Grange may have coped with such a dramatic fate with courage and grace. I can't wait to read this, because so often in history, women who have sort of strayed against the norm and stood up for themselves and not really wanted to just be docile, they've been vilified throughout history. I love sort of retellings of these women's stories, because so much will have been just erased with history, and I can't wait to read this. I think it's going to be brilliant. The next book that I've got is another one that was sent to me for review, and I'm going to be part of a blog tour for it in July, so you'll see me review it in July, and that is this one. This is The Perfect Life, and this sounds fantastic. This is a new thriller, and it is about basically wanting to escape your life, which haven't we all? The story follows Vanessa, who has always found it really easy to just pretend to be someone else. She'll put on a fancy new outfit, she'll adopt a new accent, and away she goes. This bit of escape when things have got a little bit too tough or too taxing in her own life. That's how it starts for Vanessa, and so she adopts this personality and goes off to view houses that in no way will she ever be able to afford. So I'm guessing she's looking around sort of mansion houses, and basically the story should end there. However, one of the men who lived in one of the houses that she looks at is dead, and everybody thinks Vanessa killed him. This is set to be quite twisty-turny, and I've heard that it's a really gripping read, so I'm very excited to read this one, and bringing the review in July. The next book that I've got is another historical fiction that is inspired by some true events, and it's this one, The Girl Who Came Home. This was recommended to me by the same friend who sent me The Hour of the Witch. I had to pick it up because it involves the Titanic, and I am an absolute sucker for the Titanic. This follows the story of Maggie, and let's see, Maggie Murphy, who along with 14 other members of a small village in Ireland, set sail on the Titanic in search of a better life in America. However, Maggie, the journey is bittersweet because she's leaving behind Seamus, who's the sweetheart that she's having to leave behind. However, disaster obviously strikes, the Titanic sinks, and Maggie is one of the few survivors of steerage class. But when she wakes up in a New York hospital, she's never going to speak about the events that took place and happened on that fateful night on the Titanic. Fast forward now to Chicago 1982. We've got Grace Butler, who is the great-granddaughter of Maggie, and she's going through a tough time at the moment after losing her father. However, her great-grandmother Maggie comes forward with some interesting stories about what happened that night on the Titanic. The revelation gives Grace a new direction and leads both her and Maggie to unexpected reunions with people that they thought were long lost. I can't wait to read this. As I say, I love historical fiction. There's a lot of historical fiction here, actually. It's been a historical month for me. But yeah, I can't wait to read this one, and I'll let you know how it goes. The final book that I have is one that was, once again, very kindly sent to me, and it is The Last Thing He Told Me by Laura Dave. And this sounds fantastic. This is from Viper Books, and we all know that I've had a really good experience with Viper Books so far. I haven't read any of their books that I didn't enjoy, and so I'm very excited to see what this one holds. So this follows the story of Owen Michaels, who, before he disappears, he tells his new wife one thing, and that is protect her. Now, his new wife Hannah knows exactly who he means. He means his 16-year-old teenage daughter, who lost her mother tragically as a child and unfortunately wants absolutely nothing to do with her new stepmother. Now, Hannah's obviously very worried about this, and she keeps calling her husband over and over again, but her calls are going unanswered. And then her husband's boss is arrested for fraud, and Hannah starts to realise that her husband might not be who she thought he was, and that he might have a completely different hidden life. However, Bailey, the 16-year-old daughter, may hold the key to unlocking just who Owen really was and what has caused him to disappear. So together they set out on this journey to try and figure out what has gone on. However, as they start to sort of put together the pieces of Owen's past, they realise that their lives will never quite be the same again. Now, this is soon to be turned into a TV series starring Julia Roberts, so I'm obviously wanting to read this before I see the TV series, but I'm very excited. This sounds fantastic. I love things like this. This just has me written all over it, so I can't wait to read it and find out what is going on. So there we go. Those are all of my recent purchases and books that have been very kindly sent to me, and I'm very happy. There is not one book in this pile that I am not extremely excited about. And so with that, I'm going to get on my way. So let me know if you've read any of them. Let me know if you're going to, and I will speak to you all soon.